Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second ever Global Center Centering Discussions. Today, we're talking and centering pronoun usage. So, let's talk about pronouns. Excited to have you here. Happy Pride. So excited for today. On the call or our live stream, joining us will be Kai Thomas from the Global Center, COO, who will join us in our chat about pronouns. In the meantime, I'm going to have a mini dance party to this is Muna from the Pride Spotify Pride playlist and see what's going on with that. Just while we get hooked up all the technical stuff. Kai wants to be in your video? Gladly, would love to. Okay, we have Kai Thomas going live. Approved. Always approved. Let's see that. Adding. We're having some technical difficulties before. Praying. Let's see. Let's see if Kai can join us in our chat about pronouns today.
Hello.
Yay! Hello. You're sideways.
Oh, gosh.
You're sideways right now.
Stop. Oh my gosh, the tech is all pulling down. Good morning. Happy Pride. We'll continue like
We
this.
tried desktop. We tried sideways.
But we're trying all the ways, but you know what? Here we are.
Here we are. If it's one word, it's resilience, right?
We are certainly resilient.
These barriers, these technical systemic barriers.
Technology will not bring us down.
Not today, Satan. Never. Okay, happy Pride. Great to see you.
Happy Pride. So good to see you too. Yes.
So today we're chatting about pronouns. Excited. Second ever chat.
So excited.
Last week we talked about parents and families because it was Global Parents Day.
Yes. And how to create an affirming environment for young LGBTI folks at home.
Love. So important. So let's just start with basics of so what are pronouns? Why are they important?
Yeah, sure. So pronouns are the way in third person in which we talk about our friends, our colleagues, our family members, about someone else in the room, right? And so, for example, you could say like John, my friend John, he's going to the supermarket and he needs to buy milk. Or maybe John needs a cup of coffee and I say, pass the coffee to him. So he and him are the pronouns in this case. So it's the way in which we describe a person without using their name.
Yeah. Okay. And that's a third person pronoun.
Third person. Mm-hmm.
And I think that some people use pronouns that correspond with their sex, assigned at birth, and some people use pronouns that align with affirm their gender identity, right? But it's not always intertwined like that, right? It's very, for some people it's situational based, some people it's, right? Just the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It really, for some people, pronouns can be permanent, and some people, they could be temporary. They could be based on the day, right? For a lot of gender fluid folks, sometimes they are he, him on one day, or they, them on one day. And it's really about respecting and affirming their identity and using the pronouns that best affirm them on that day.
Yeah, love that. Oh, I can't wait to chat about this because I've been thinking as coming out as gender fluid, I don't know, a year ago, and now like experimenting with pronouns throughout the year. like some my email signatures say like all pronouns, but then sometimes I'm like, okay, I click send, right? Like this goes to like in every like to my boss, to my like colleagues, to my friends, to my family, to like is on every Zoom call, like putting it there, and
Right.
like that kind of like I guess that's another process of coming out. Maybe it felt like it is.
Absolutely. It's coming out and it's coming out over and over again because you continually have to do it, and affirm your identity and affirm the words that make you feel most yourself, right? And sometimes you can't use the pronouns that affirm your identity based on safety and the situation that you're in, right? If you aren't safe in your workplace, do you want all your colleagues to know that those are the pronouns that best affirm you?
Yeah. Can I ask, like, because I think a lot of people wonder, like, how do you know what, like, what pronouns people want to use and how to affirm them in that way? I think a lot of people want to, but they're like shy or scared of maybe misgendering or using the wrong pronouns or being sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally understandable. I think the best way to go about it is to just ask. You know, for example, hi, Cody. My name is Kai, and my pronouns are they, them. What is your name, and what are your pronouns?
Ah, me, right? Yeah.
You,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
you.
My name's Cody. So, like I said, like being gender fluid, I went from like he him pronouns to like rhythm like to like playing it with my friends. I'm like I use like she her, and then like it was like global centers like first like meet the staff, I think, and I'm like you can use he she they like all pronouns, and then like we had a conversation of like so what let's let's chat about it. I'm like, and so now I'm like at a place where like I did use he she they for a while, and then I saw how people defaulted to he because I'm masculine presenting, and then so now I use all pronouns. But then so then I'm like thinking now I'm like maybe I should put they slash he first because I prefer they. Not to be too complicated, but that was my journey for those that are still following. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it absolutely
Okay.
does. And I think, we continue to learn more about ourselves and the words that better affirm our identities. And so maybe they, at this moment for you, is better affirming to who you are, or more affirming to who you are.
Neutral,
Yeah.
yeah. How about you? What was your process of? Mine was really recent. Like, what was your process like?
Yeah, so it was over a few years and being in different spaces. But I think a space that really helped me, and then I talked about Brave Trails last week, but was being at Brave Trails as a camp counselor. It was the first space I entered into where I just introduced myself with they, them pronouns. Before that, I had introduced myself in spaces as like, oh, hi, my pronouns are she, her, or she, they. But I was like, just dipping my feet in the water per se, just like feeling it out.
Yeah.
But when I went to Brave Trails, I was just like, hi, these are my pronouns, they, them, and this is who I am. And because it was a new environment, I was just able to be my full self, and especially in a place like Brave Trails where um, it's a place to figure out, for young people, but also for the counselors, for me to figure out um, the way in which, like words to describe yourself and the pronouns to use to describe yourself. And so it felt right. And since then, I've stuck with it, and it's a slow process of coming out to friends and colleagues and people that I've known forever, right? It's such a slow process of letting people know, because people have always known you in one way.
Yeah.
And so to ask people to reframe the way in which they know you, or reframe the way in which they speak about you, is a process. But it's the spaces, it's the safe spaces, and Brave Trails for me was that space where I could play with pronouns.
Totally. Oh, I have two questions, or like one, because I'm so fascinated by that process. One, I'm like, I think after you told me personally, I think it took honestly, my brain to like use I definitely misgendered you for like the first 3 months, 1, 2, 3 months. I just want to be honest in that, like, it's not like in being an ally and being affirming of someone else, like, uh, it's not going to be perfect, but like the commitment and just apologizing, saying, I'm really trying to do this. I really want to affirm this. I'm really sorry. Did you feel like when I'm doing it, like that was enough? Or like, I mean, of course it should be correct, but like the process of being an ally for someone else.
Yeah, I think definitely if just continuing to try and apologizing and moving on and not making a big deal about it. And yeah, just continuing to practice, and the more practice you have, the more it becomes like it just rolls off your tongue, right?
Yeah.
The more practice.
Yeah. Well said. So, okay, and then brave trails, my second question. So, like, how do you create those spaces that you feel like welcome and it allows people to affirm each other?
Mhm.
Like, what
Yeah, I
was it
think
about that space?
there's a few things. Definitely all the counselors are well trained and have extensive experience working with youth. But a few things that stand out is number one, like visual cues. Like when we got there, we spent like a whole day of decorating the entire campus, right? So it's like unicorns and rainbows everywhere, right? Creating the environment of like of this queer utopia. And then it's also reaffirming the norms. There are a lot of norms at Camp Brave Trails, and reaffirming them every time at every session, to a point where the kids, the campers kind of are like, oh my god, yes, we know them. Yeah, like we have a truddy system where you can't go to the bathroom with just one other person. You have to go with at least one adult and one other person, or at least two other people. It's just like there are rules that are ingrained in their mind, and they know them. And also every day, I mean, every check-in in the morning, we, before breakfast, we would go and make a big circle, and we just go around and we say, hi, this is my name and these are my pronouns. And it was a space where people could play with a new name, play with new pronouns,
Oh,
and try it out for the day. And the whole day people would use that name and pronouns, and if it felt right, it stuck, and if it didn't, the next day you could try something else.
that's
So I think,
incredible.
yeah, those are some contributing factors. Not only is it like the visual environment, but it's like that psychosocial safety of knowing that all the other young people are kind of figuring this out. And also the older people there are also figuring it out, and knowing that. And also, I mean, also having the support. There's always a mental health counselor there, or two on the during the camp, to ensure that, you know, if the campers need something or need to talk to someone, that someone is there for them to
Yeah,
talk
'cause
to.
what's the age range of the camp?
12 to 18.
Yeah, identity,
Yeah.
key stages of identity development. Yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
we're always in those key stages, though, too. For,
I know.
for those that are just joining, we're having our second centering discussions today, and we're chatting about pronouns. And so far, we've been chatting about pronouns in US context and with
Mhm.
English and third person pronouns.
Yeah,
So, can I share something fun in Thai context? So,
absolutely.
I'm studying Thai over the summer, and you want to see how pronouns are in Thai language. It's this master's
Oh my God.
project. Because it's based, so Thai pronouns, and here's, I don't want to read like directly from it, but like reflects the complexity of Thai society and culture. Thai people's choice of pronouns is never absolute. It's always based on the situation, because it's about the power, like the hierarchy and the power within that, and being polite and respecting people by seniority, by profession, by like their family. And so it's like this section is like I, like referring to yourself, you, and like they and them. So I'm like, oh, this is so, I thought it was liberating. I mean, I do have to say, like, okay, it was presented in a binary fashion of male and female, and I wanted to be like, okay, how about like all LGBTI plus people, but like I would love to hear, like, I've just learned this yesterday or the day before. I would love to hear your reaction on like that that different culture aspect.
Well, yeah, I mean, language is so determined on the context and the place in which we live, and where our history has progressed over time, right? You know, and so Thailand has such a different culture in relation to people and to relation to families and to relationship to communities than we do, right? We don't, I mean, in Spanish too, we don't have a you, like a respectful you in English, that I know a lot of other languages have. Um, but there are other ways that we can show respect in English.
Well said.
Which, yeah, but it goes around to the question, but we have limited ways to show respect because we have like sir and madam, which are binary and which can make people feel not affirmed in many ways. Yeah, I mean, I hear sir and madam interchangeably on the reg, so I know that there are other ways that we can do it, right? We just have to continue to create new language and create ways to respect all people in the room.
Yeah, have there been progress on like forms with Mr., Ms., Mrs., Mix, these kinds of things?
Mix for sure. MX is a salutation that I've seen sometimes on forms that you can fill out, like if you're writing your senator or something, but it's not very common. And I think a lot of people don't know how to pronounce it, which is just mix.
MX,
Mix Thomas.
period,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, MX period.
Yeah.
But I've never heard really people say it out loud. Other than when people are like, you can call me Mix Thomas, you know, but I've never heard it otherwise said out loud.
I don't know why. Maybe this is inappropriate, but like I get like a mixed Tom is like a DJ vibe. Like I love it.
I'm also
like dance party, like
yeah.
in that affirmation, that celebratory feel.
Mm-hmm.
How about can I ask about neopronouns? So
Sure.
there's like definitely a long history, like the past 100 years. I definitely know for sure of like playing with like Z's and Zer, right? And so much more, really so much more different combinations.
Yeah.
What do you know about neopronouns? Are people using it more, et cetera, et cetera?
Oh, definitely. Within the queer community, there are a lot of folks using neopronouns. I think what's important about pronouns and neopronouns is just using the language that the person has asked you to use. I think that's the most important thing. So when you introduce yourself and you introduce your pronouns, asking for their pronouns, you know, it's hard sometimes when it's a new word and you haven't heard it before. But I think likewise, if you're meeting someone from a different culture and you're practicing their name or like trying to pronounce their name correctly, you have to do it you have to practice to ensure that you're saying it correctly. And I think it's likewise with pronouns and neopronouns. Just making sure that you're listening, you're taking note, and you're trying. And it's hard, obviously. It can be very hard and tricky with new language and making our mind think in different ways. But yeah, it goes a long way. It makes people really feel seen when you use their right pronouns.
That's so well said, because that's how I felt too. Of like, because Thailand, like, because it's situations based, like, pronouns were one way of like, because in referring to someone out of respect, it's kun, whether they're like, regardless of their gender identity, it's just like a respectful title to call someone else. But like in that situation based, it allowed me to think about my gender fluidity, and I'm like, yes, like so it allowed me to affirm that, and like what's that feeling like through that process is like feeling like freedom, like freedom and to play and like it's like totally aligns with like global center of like creating freedom is like through affirmation, through like language that affirms people that that allows people to just live happily and love all
Absolutely.
those things. Live with pride month.
For pride. Yeah. I mean, it goes a long way. It really does. And making it a small change in your grammar and your language just to make sure someone feels accepted is a little ask. It's such a little ask. So I would just recommend to lean in and and to be open and vulnerable. And it might be uncomfortable sometimes if you've never asked someone for their pronouns before, but it's going to make that person feel so seen, especially if they're a member of the LGBTI community.
Yeah.
So
when I was like about to get on this call, I think I saw a 2019 Pew Research poll said 1 in 5 Americans know someone that uses non-binary like pronoun usage. Like, not that you. So I think even if, like how like key takeaway, how like what can people do, like allies? What can allies do? Really want to affirm people and their pronouns? Can they ask? Can they? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, key takeaways: number one, always introduce yourself with your name and pronouns. Number two, put your pronouns in your email signature. We live in the Zoom world now. Make sure your pronouns are in your Zoom name when you're signing into a Zoom call. Make it a common practice at meetings, at work, to introduce yourself with your name and your pronouns so everyone in the room feels safe.
That's a great point, because it's like, yeah, like create the space that's inclusive instead of having that, like, yeah, having to like out yourself and like nudge through that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's such a great point.
Yeah.
Such a great point. Aw, yay. That's a great,
Yay.
that's awesome. Thank you for chatting today about pronouns. Do you have anything else you want to chat about? Anything else you want to say?
No, just happy Pride.
Happy
I hope you
Pride.
are celebrating. Yes. Send us pictures of you celebrating Pride and enjoying Pride this month.
Yes, please. And if anyone has any questions that's on the call or rewatching this later, please feel free to reach out with us and ask questions. There's tons of resources on pronoun usage and affirmation, all of these things. So thank you for being an ally. Thank you for being an LGBTI person and being brave and all of those things. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Happy Pride.